say money don't grow on trees, but it sure as hell jumps across ponds. Meet the frog, part philosopher, part hustler, and 100% amphibious attitude. He don't leap for nobody. The world just moves around him. He's been bouncing checks since the 90s and still somehow lands on his feet. The Frog Energy Drink, now available. Introducing the Frog Energy Drink for when life's swampy and you need that jump start to slap reality back into shape. Made with 100% street wisdom, caffeine, and the tears of your doubters. Pulling up to the club on a leaf boat with LED lights. Winking at Angie across the bar. Hopping over bills and haters alike. It's not just a drink, it's a lifestyle. You don't sip it, you commit to it. Whether you're hustling in the swamp or dealing with clowns in the city, one can of this, and you're hopping over the competition. I don't croak under pressure, I perform. That's right, baby. Stay slick, stay green, stay legendary. The Frog, hop heavy, live legendary.
So when I was in high school, we had school dances like homecoming and prom, and everyone would ask girls out trying to get dates to the dance. But there was this one kid who never had to worry about getting a date to the dance. Always had a date to the dance, Lance. You see, Lance was rolling in dates. Every time a school dance was coming up, all the girls in school would tell guys no because they were hoping Lance would take them to the dance. I asked so many girls to the dance in the craziest ways, and they still said no, hoping for a chance to the dance with Lance. I hired an airplane advertisement company to fly a banner asking a girl out, and she said no. I had the chorus class sing to a girl in class, and she still said no. And I even had the lunch lady spell it with french fries for a girl, and she said no. No one had a chance against Lance. Me and all the other guys were pissed. We would go to the dance without dates, and all the girls took one glance at Lance, and they were in a trance. And the dance was themed like France. I knew I had to stop this nonsense, so I put ants in Lance's pants, but it just enhanced his dance. So then, I pantsed Lance while he danced. Turns out he had a huge dong. He began to prance with it dragging behind him, and then Lance was expelled after that for refusing to pull up his pants. But I heard Lance has a degree in finance, and he loves plants. See, I was in my late 20s, and I was on a date with this really hot girl. I mean, she was like a supermodel, and the date was perfect. The movie was great, the dinner was great, everything was going great. And then we were getting in my car because we were going to go back to my place because I knew I was going to get some. And then she turned on the radio, and this song came on, and I was rocking the fuck out. I put my hands up like the song said, and I was just dancing. I was having a good time. I felt like the ceiling couldn't hold me, or at least the roof of the car couldn't. But see, the problem was I was having too good of a time because we took a turn going 60 miles an hour, and she flew straight out the side window and got impaled by a tree. I just had to stare at her body while that song played in the back. So when I was in high school, I was dating this girl named Lisa Lugo. She was gorgeous. I was in love with her. She was my soulmate. She loved building Legos, and I would go over to her house all the time to build Legos with her. So for her birthday, I went out and bought her a really cool Lego set, and I showed up to class to give it to her. Then the teacher announced to the class that there was a new student, and his name was Lester Lego, the son of the founder of Legos. He saw my girlfriend had balloons, and he went up to her and pulled out a bouquet of Lego flowers. Right then and there, they started making out. I fell to my knees crying, holding out the Lego set I'd bought her. She laughed at me, and her and Lester jumped into a Lego helicopter and took off into the Lego sunset. I heard they got married, and she only had to change one letter in her last name. So I was a sophomore in high school, and the homecoming dance was coming up, and I wanted to go with Samantha Knobgobbler, because word around the school was if you went on a date with her, she'd gobble your knob like corn on the cob. So I asked her out before anyone else, and she said yes. I was so excited. I was about to get my knob gobbled at homecoming. So I got myself a tuxedo, and I looked damn good. I looked like a young James Bond. I was ready. The only weird thing was my mom drove us to the dance, and she smokes with the windows rolled up, but I didn't care. I only had one thing on my mind, getting my knob gobbled. So she dropped us off at the dance, and I started started boogie-woogieing. And there was a snack bar, and the local gas station was catering sushi. My school didn't have a big budget. So I ate a few pieces of the sushi, and I went back out on the dance floor to break it down. Then the song Witch Doctor came on, you know, the song that goes ooh-ee, you know, ooh-ah-ah. Don't forget the ting-tang, walla walla, end it with a bing bang, you know that song? And that song was my shit. So when I went to twerk, I did shit. My pants. It came out of nowhere. And then right then, Samantha Knobgobbler grabs me by my hand and says, "Hey, you want to ditch this dance and go get your knob gobbled?" So I said, "No, I'm actually gay, sorry," because I didn't want her to know I had a massive shit in my pants. She was so offended because nobody has ever turned down getting their knob gobbled by Samantha Knobgobbler. So she ran away and drove off with Billy Bowling Hands. This was before he drowned. I'm sure his balls were like bowling balls. So when I was in high school, I was on the swim team, the girls' swim team. See, I wasn't fast enough to be on the boys' team, so I went up against the girls, and I would still come in 4th place. But I swam slow for other reasons. Anyway, one day I was in a race, and I actually wanted to win this one. I swam so fast, my swim trunks came off, and I couldn't find them. Then all the girls got out of the pool, and the coach said, "Guy, come on out." And I said, "No." And he said, "Guy, get your ass out of the pool. It's time for the boys to swim." But I didn't want to get out. I didn't want the girls' swim team to see my small, shriveled up package. So I was trying to think of a way to distract everybody. And that's when I saw Pulls the Fire Alarm Paul. He was a kid that would pull the fire alarm if you dared him to. So I said, "Hey Paul, can you pull the fire alarm?" And he said, "Yep." So Paul pulled the fire alarm and everyone started running outside. So I said, "Now's my chance." But then 2 firefighters came and they pulled me out of the pool and took me outside with everyone else. And the whole school saw my little shriveled up shrimp. It was the most embarrassing day of my life. So I was a senior in high school, and I was a bit of a ladies' man. I had made out with at least 3 of the girls from the chess club. Not a lot of people were going after those girls, so I volunteered. But then, one day, I decided to go after a bigger prize. Katie Knockers with the big ham hockers. She was the hottest, bustiest girl in school. You know, because of her big knockers, aka ham hockers. It was Valentine's Day, and they had this candygram that you could send to a girl you liked, where some of the kids from the Glee Club would sing to them and hand them a note saying you liked them and shit. So I paid the $15, and I said, "Send this to Katie Knockers with the big ham hockers." But one of the kids in the Glee Club, dyslexic Dylan, wrote the wrong name down, and the candygram was given to Deborah Dimpleass, one of the fattest, ugliest, stinkiest, resting bitch-faced girls in school. They gave her the candygram and said, "This is from Brooklyn Guy," and man was I so embarrassed. But Deborah loved it, I think. She wouldn't leave me alone. She came over to my house, and I tried hiding from her, but my mom answered the door, and she thought she was pregnant, and I told her, "No, Mom, she's just fat." But my mom made me marry her anyway. I always wondered what would have happened if I had given the candygram to Katie Knockers. I heard she's a supermodel now. So my great-great-grandmother Joanne died, and her funeral just so happened to fall on St. Patrick's Day. I wore a bright green suit. I looked like a leprechaun. But guess what color everyone else was wearing? Black. Not a single piece of green clothing was at that funeral except for me. I said, "All you guys are fucked." And I went around pinching everybody. I pinched my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, my nephews. Everyone was crying. But I couldn't tell if it was because they were sad about Joanne dying or if they were ashamed they forgot to wear green and got pinched. And guess what? It was an open casket. So my great-grandmother Joanne's dead ass got pinched too. I pinched her so hard the embalming fluid squirted out. The whole funeral home was mortified. That was the saddest day for my family, but the happiest day for me, because I didn't forget to wear green. So when I was in high school, we had school dances like homecoming. So in high school, there was this kid named Gary, and he loved... So when I was a kid, I was the hide-and-seek champion. All my friends would come over and we'd play hide-and-seek and no one could ever find me. They'd always yell, "We give up," and I'd pop out of my hiding spot, the champion. But then, this one kid showed up, his name was Hide-and-Seek Zeke. See, Zeke, he could hide in places no other human being could possibly fit in. It's like he had no bones, he could just slither into hiding spots like a snake. There was this one time, I was looking for Zeke for an entire 24 hours and I finally gave up. And Zeke jumped out of a fucking toaster. I know that sounds physically impossible, but it's true. I don't know how the he did it. And when it was Zeke's turn to seek, he would find everyone in seconds. Just gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Zeke was the new hide-and-seek champion. So this one time, Zeke was seeking, and I ran out of my house, hopped on a train to Boston, stowed away on a steamboat to London, changed my name to London Guy, got plastic surgery to change my entire face, and still, Zeke found me. I was so pissed. So I decided to hide cameras in my house, and we played hide-and-seek again, and I saw Zeke hiding a box of Fruit Loops. So I lit my house on fire, and I ran out. So I was in high school, and it was St. Patrick's Day, and I was wearing all the green. Green pants, green shirt, green shoes, green hat, everything. I even ate green snow cones so my shit would be green. No one was pinching me that day, except this kid named Diddley. He pinched me even though I was wearing green, but I just punched him in the face. Anyway, I was in class pinching any kid that wasn't wearing green, and they couldn't say shit because they weren't wearing green, and I caught them. So after I was done pinching the whole class, I saw the perfect victim, Mrs. Thickums, my sex ed teacher. She had the fattest ass. I'm talking a huge dumpy. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, and the wall was her ass. Everyone in school wanted to know if it was firm or juicy, and I noticed she wasn't wearing green, and I thought, today's the day I finally find out what Mrs. Thickums' ass feels like. She was handing out tests from last week, and when she got to my desk, I looked her up and down to make sure she wasn't wearing green, and she wasn't, so I pinched the hell out of her ass, and it felt like jello. I pinched it a few more times, and I even gave it a smack, and then she turned around and yelled, "Brooklyn guy, principal's office, now!" And I said, "But Mrs. Thickums, you aren't wearing green, and you're double caked up on a Tuesday." So she said, "I am wearing green," and she pulled down her pants and showed me her green thong. And man, I wasn't even mad I got suspended for 2 weeks. That was the greatest day of my life. But Mrs. Thickums did get arrested for mooning the whole class. His name was Dr. Vinny Vasectomy. Oh man, he loved doing vasectomies. He loved them so much he changed his last name to Vasectomy. And he would just give anybody a vasectomy, even if they didn't want it. Just ran around with a pair of scissors snipping balls. And then one day, he wanted to do the biggest vasectomy ever. The President of the United States. So he got a job working as the hedge clipper in the White House garden. And then one day, the President came out and he just ran at him trying to snip his balls. Yeah, he didn't even get close. The Secret Service just shot him dead right there. I mean, just not even close. They just lit his ass up. He's dead. So here's what happened. After I got my powers, I decided to go look for all the Dragon Balls again because I wanted to wish for my own planet because I thought that would be cool. So I was flying around, destroying buildings, flipping cars and stuff until eventually I did find all the Dragon Balls and I wished for my own planet full of naked women and the aliens from Toy Story because I thought that would be funny. So I'm just hanging out on my planet with my naked women and the aliens and the naked aliens because things got kind of weird there for a little while. And then all of a sudden this white and purple alien dude shows up and he kind of looks like a Digimon. And his name was like Refrigerator or Popsicle or something cold, I don't remember. And then he starts yelling at me about how he's the best in the universe and how he wants all my Dragon Balls, because I guess my planet just came with Dragon Balls. I didn't realize that planets just naturally had Dragon Balls, but whatever. I was like, listen man, I don't know who you are, but you're not getting my Dragon Balls. So then he starts pointing his finger, and then he starts shooting these lasers out, and he's killing all my babes and all the aliens, and I'm like, you want to go, dog? So I start throwing haymakers. I'm teleporting around him, punching him and stuff, and I punch him in the balls, and it turns out he doesn't have balls, because I don't really know what kind of gender he is, because he's like an alien or something. And then he says, look over there, a naked woman. And I mean, I look, naturally, you know, because like naked. And then while I'm looking, he knocks me out, he steals all my Dragon Balls, he wishes for my powers, and he blows up my planet. So I'm at my doctor job at the hospital, right? And I'm doing this long 18-hour open heart surgery, and it's taken forever. I'm getting tired, I'm getting hungry, so eventually I tell the patient and the nurses, hey, I'm gonna go get lunch real quick, I'll be right back. So I go out into the waiting room where we have the vending machines. We have one of those nice vending machines, the new ones that takes credit cards, so it doesn't even matter if you don't have cash. So then I see they have Cheez-Its in the vending machine, and you know I'm gonna get Cheez-Its because I love Cheez-Its. So I swipe my card, get a bag of Cheez-Its. I swipe my card again, I get a second bag of Cheez-Its. And I'm thinking, 2 bags of Cheez-Its are not enough Cheez-Its. I gotta buy the whole damn row of Cheez-Its. So I swipe my card again, and as I'm doing that, I notice, out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody with binoculars watching me buy Cheez-Its. And I'm thinking, why would somebody have binoculars in a hospital watching me buy Cheez-Its? And then I realize, he must be with the Cheez-It Corporation. He's trying to keep track of how many Cheez-Its a single person can buy. And I'm thinking, maybe I'm going to win some kind of contest, you know, because I'm buying all these Cheez-Its. So I start swiping my card really slow so he can get all my information, because I want to make sure he can track me down to give me my Cheez-It reward, you know? So then I buy like 7 bags of Cheez-Its, and then I walk over to the guy, because my curiosity is getting the best of me. And then I'm like, hey, I see you. And then the guy hides his binoculars. And then I'm like, no, I already caught you. I know you're with the Cheez-It Corporation. And then he's like, no, sir, I'm not with the Cheez-It Corporation. And I'm like, no, I saw your binoculars. I already got you. And then I see in front of him, he has a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers on it. and it looks kind of like a credit card number, but then I realize that must be all the Cheez-Its I bought in my lifetime. I'm definitely winning this contest. So I give the guy my name and my home address and my social security number, all the information he needs, you know, because I also want to make sure that I can write this off as a gift on my taxes when I get all my Cheez-Its. So he's so happy. Like, he's so happy to have all this information. So I'm like, I definitely won this contest. So I go back home to my wife and I'm like, honey, Cheesy Wonka is going to give me the Cheez-It factory. I'm going to be a Cheez-It king. She doesn't believe me. She thinks I'm crazy. And I'm like, honey, you just watch. This is going to be awesome. So I sit back and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. And then my phone starts ringing. And it's my credit card company. And they said that my credit cards are all maxed out. And then my bank calls and said they're repossessing my house. And my credit is ruined. Because it turns out there was no Cheesy Wonka. And that guy did not work for the Cheez-It company. He was a credit card scammer. And he stole my identity and all of my money. So now, whenever I see somebody with binoculars, I just start throwing haymakers. Like one time, I was in the park and I saw these old ladies with binoculars, and then I started throwing haymakers. And yeah, it turns out they were bird watching, but still. So when I was in high school, there was this kid named Has a Slinky Sid. Guess what he always had? Diabetes, and also a slinky. He would try to make the slinky go down the stairs at the front of the school, and kids would push him and be like, Sid, get out of the way with your diabetes. This one time, he took a family trip to Egypt because there was a doctor there with cheaper insulin for his diabetes, and Sid climbed to the top of the Pyramid of Giza, but then he started having a diabetic ketoacidosis attack, and he didn't have insulin. So he wrote, I need my insulin on a piece of paper, and put it on the side of his slinky, and he pushed the slinky down the side of the pyramid. But it stopped halfway, and he died because the slinky never made it to the bottom. So me and my master Qui-Gon Jinn, well, Liam Neeson, had to fight Darth Maul, right? And there were like these laser walls that kept turning on and off. So me and my master got separated, and Liam Neeson had to fight Darth Maul by himself. And then Darth Maul stabbed Liam Neeson in the stomach, and he was dying. So I was upset. I mean, I was panicking, right? And then my laser wall turned off, and I had to fight Darth Maul. And then Darth Maul stuck his hand out, and he was like, bring it, you know? And so I pissed my pants at that point. I mean, I was freaking out. But then I had to try to fight Darth Maul with pissy pants, and honestly, I mean, he kicked my ass. He knocked me into like this big hole. It was like a well or something. I don't actually know what this place was. There were like laser walls and like a big hole, and I mean, we got in there pretty easily. The place was huge. I guess it was like a power plant or something. I don't know. I mean, OSHA would have had a field day with this place. There were no handrails anywhere. I'm sure I'm not the only person who fell into this big hole. But anyway, I fell into this hole and I was just hanging on by like this little peg, and I dropped my lightsaber, so I was just hanging there. And then Darth Maul was looking down at me, and he was like making sparks with his lightsaber because I guess he was trying to scare me. But then I remember that my master's lightsaber's up there. So I do this sick front flip over Darth Maul's head, then I catch Liam Neeson's lightsaber, and I cut Darth Maul in half, and he falls down the giant well. And I'm like, okay, that shit was cool. I mean, that was badass. I felt great. I mean, I looked over, and Liam Neeson was giving me a thumbs up, and he was like, yo, dog, that shit was tight. That was really cool. And then he said, yeah, you train Anakin for me, and then he died. So yeah, I went on to train Darth Vader. So when I was in high school, I was on the swim team, the girls' swim team. See, I wasn't fast enough to be on the boys' team, so I went up against the girls, and I would still come in 4th place. But I swam slow for other reasons. Anyway, one day I was in a race, and I actually wanted to win this one. I swam so fast, my swim trunks came off, and I couldn't find them. Then all the girls got out of the pool, and the coach said, Guy, come on out. And I said, no. And he said, Guy, get your ass out of the pool. It's time for the boys to swim. But I didn't want to get out. I didn't want the girls' swim team to see my small, shriveled up package. So I was trying to think of a way to distract everybody. And that's when I saw Pulls the Fire Alarm Paul. He was a kid that would pull the fire alarm if you dared him to. So I said, hey, Paul, can you pull the fire alarm? And he said, yep. So Paul pulled the fire alarm, and everyone started running outside. So I said, now's my chance. But then 2 firefighters came, and they pulled me out of the pool and took me outside with everyone else. And the whole school saw my little shriveled up shrimp. It was the most embarrassing day of my life. So I went to high school from 1990 to 1993, when there was this kid named Bill, and he was a huge Buffalo Bills fan. I'm talking diehard fan. And freshman year, he said the Buffalo Bills are gonna win the Super Bowl. And I said, no they aren't, they fucking suck. Well, the Buffalo Bills actually made it to the Super Bowl, and Buffalo Bill said, I told you they're gonna win the Super Bowl, and I said, no, they're gonna lose. And the Buffalo Bills lost the Super Bowl, and I laughed so hard in Bill's stupid, ugly face. Then, sophomore year, the Buffalo Bills went back to the Super Bowl, and Buffalo Bill said, this is our year, we're gonna win. And I said, nope, they suck ass, they're gonna lose, and the Buffalo Bills lost the Super Bowl again. I laughed even harder in Bill's face. Then, junior year, Bill was walking around saying, I just know we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I can feel it. And I said, shut up, Bill. Your team sucks ass. And the Buffalo Bills lost the Super Bowl for a third time in a row. So then, senior year comes around, and the Bills make it to another Super Bowl. And Bill's like, no way my team loses 4 Super Bowls in a row. And I said, yeah, they will, because they suck so fucking bad. And guess what? The Buffalo Bills lost for a 4th time. The whole school was dying laughing, making fun of them. And Buffalo Bill said, you know what? I'm gonna go kill fat women and wear their skin. And then he ran out of the school, and I said, yeah, your team fucking sucks. So back in high school, there was this kid named Christmas Lights Larry, and he was obsessed with Christmas lights. He had Christmas lights wrapped all around his body, his shoes, even his hat and his backpack had Christmas lights on them. His locker at school was covered in Christmas lights. His car that he drove to school was covered in Christmas lights. His parents' house would win best Christmas lights every single year. And it wasn't just during Christmas time either. All year long, he was covered in Christmas lights. He would always lose at hide and seek. He would piss people off at the movie theaters because he was so bright. And this one time, I had front row tickets to a Michael Jackson concert, and I had the whole outfit on. The hat, the shiny glove. I made the super cool poster that I wanted Michael Jackson to sign, and I just knew he was going to notice me and take me to his Neverland Ranch. But it turns out, Christmas Lights Larry also had front row seats, and Michael Jackson immediately saw him because of all the Christmas lights and chose him instead. I was devastated. Christmas Lights Larry got to go to the Neverland Ranch with Michael Jackson, and he took so many cool pictures and bragged about it at school. I was so fucking mad, and I've been plotting my revenge ever since. So I hopped on a non-stop flight to Nepal, because that's where Mount Everest is, and then I hired a Sherpa to take me up to the top of the mountain. But about halfway up Mount Everest, my Sherpa died, so I had to make the rest of the hike on my own. But when I got to the top of Mount Everest, I saw a bald eagle's nest, and I thought, wow, this is gonna be easy. So I grabbed one of the eggs, and then all of a sudden this eagle swooped down and punched me right in the face. Like, he punched me. Like, he didn't scratch me. He balled up his talons and punched me in the face. So I started throwing haymakers. I started punching him in his face. And then the eagle held me down and started pecking at my eyes, and then he threw me off the top of Mount Everest, and I fell all the way back down to the bottom. But I still had the egg in my hand, so I got that. So then I hopped on another non-stop flight to Guam, and then from there I took a submarine out into the bottom of the Marianas Trench. And I saw a family of octopi. So then I wrote free candy on the side of my submarine, because even octopus kids can't resist free candy. So then when they came up, I kidnapped the baby octopuses. And the octopus mom and dad, they were so upset. They were screaming an octopus. I mean, I don't speak octopus, but they seemed very upset. So from there, I hopped on another non-stop flight over to Italy, and I went over to Papa John's house so he could cook me up a pizza. So he answered the door, and he called me a racial slur, because I guess that's just how he says hello. So then he cooked up the pizza with the octopi on it, and then he called the pizza a racial slur, and then he called me a racial slur. So from there, I hopped on another non-stop flight to North Africa, which is where the Sahara Desert is, and then I rented a camel, and then wandered out into the middle of the Sahara Desert. And then my camel died of dehydration, so I lost the deposit on the camel. So I just kind of wandered around the Sahara Desert for a while, you know. I was dehydrated, so I was hallucinating, and I was starting to see things, and I saw a mirage, or I thought it was a mirage, but it turned out it was an actual blue cactus. So I took it, and then I blacked out from dehydration. So then I woke up in a pyramid hospital, and I said, well, thank you for saving my life, and then I hopped on another non-stop flight to India. I got a lot of frequent flyer miles on this trip. So then when I got to India, I saw a bunch of people gathered around worshipping a cow, and then I said, hey, I gotta take this cow to the vet, because I think he has mad cow disease. But really, I just took it out back, and I shot it, and I butchered it for the meat, and then I came out with 2 Big Macs. So from there, I hopped on another non-stop flight over to NASA, and then I had them send me on a rocket to Tatooine. But then when I got to Tatooine, I got robbed by some Jawas, and they were all like, Houdini! And then when I was in Mos Eisley, I found the McDonald's there. So I went through the drive-thru, and they were like, Houdini! And then I ordered that blue milk you wanted, and they gave it to me, and they said, Houdini! And so after I came out of the drive-thru, I saw they actually have a Chick-fil-A on Tatooine too, and it's open on Sundays because the days don't work the same there. So I went through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A, and they went, Houdini! And I got that chicken. So then, from there, I hopped on a rocket, and I went back to my house, and then I went into my pantry, and it turns out I actually already had a 2-month-old expired can of Chef Boyardee ravioli, and I had some Pop-Tarts, so I just took the crust off those. I heard Comic-Con was coming into town, right? And it's this big convention where everybody dresses up, and I think, oh, that sounds fun. So I decide to go dressed as a box of Cheez-Its, because I didn't really understand the theme, and I thought we were all just going dressed as stuff we like. So I show up as a box of Cheez-Its, and I immediately know I made a big mistake, because then I see everybody dressed up as all this nerdy stuff, and then I think, no, you know what? That's okay. I'm gonna rock the hell out of this Cheez-It costume. So I go in, and then this nerd dressed like Jar Jar Binks starts making fun of me, and he's like, "You so stupid. You so dressed like a box of Cheez-Its." And I say, "Hey man, don't dog on my Cheez-Its. They're actually pretty good." And he says, "You so dumb. Me so think cheese nips are better." And I'm like, okay, cheese nips are shit. And then he hits me right in the eye, and I fall back on my back, and I can't get up because I'm dressed like a box of Cheez-Its, and I can't roll over because I'm a box of Cheez-Its. So then he gets on top of me, and he keeps hitting me, and he gives me 2 black eyes, and then this stormtrooper has to come pull him off me, and by this time everybody's pointing at me and laughing because I just get my ass kicked by Jar Jar Binks, and then the firefighters have to come and pry me out of my costume with the jaws of life. And I am so embarrassed by all of this. So I decide to pull the fire alarm, and ruin everybody's time. The sprinklers turn on, everybody's costume gets wet, they have to cancel the whole convention because of me. So then, I just go home and eat a box of Cheez-Its. So back in high school, there was this kid named Randy that everybody called Candy Randy because he would sell candy to everybody in the school. Now, for some reason, Randy didn't like me. I can't imagine why. But usually, he would only charge $1 for his candy. But then one day, a couple hours before lunch, I was hungry and I had $1 burning a hole in my pocket. So I went up to Randy and I was like, "Hey Randy, let me get some Skittles." And he said, "For you, that'll be $2. And I said, "Randy, that's bullshit because usually you only charge $1 and I only have $1. But he still wouldn't sell me the Skittles. So I did what any man would do, and I picked my nose and I wiped a booger on him. And Randy didn't like that at all. He was pissed off, and he stood up and said, "Okay, meet me after school by the flagpole, and me and you are gonna fight." And then all the students and all the teachers went, "Ooh," so I pretty much had to do it at that point. So then I spent the whole rest of my day trying to figure out how I could fake my own death so I didn't have to fight Randy. I even tried to call my mom and see if she would check me out of school, but she wouldn't do it. So then, after school, I went up to the flagpole, and there was this huge crowd of people gathered around, and they were all chanting, "Randy, Randy," and I was like, "That's not fair. I can fight Randy. I got this. All he ever does is eat candy. I can take him." So then I started throwing haymakers, and Randy just kept dodging them. And then Randy started beating the shit out of me. I mean, he was good. And then the worst part is, his hands were still sticky from eating all that candy. And then, after he got done beating me up, he took my underwear and tied it to the flagpole, and then he hoisted my underwear up like a flag. And then my underwear had a skid mark in it, so that was horrible. And then everybody started saying the Pledge of Allegiance to my underwear. I've never been so embarrassed in all my life.
Have you or a loved one accidentally purchased the new 80s Wise Guy? Maybe you walked into a bookstore. Maybe you were online. Maybe you made a series of catastrophic life decisions at 2:37 in the morning. Well, friend, you may be entitled to emotional compensation because introducing Bambi's Book Review Corner. The only review show brave enough to ask, did I just buy literature or did I buy a decorative doorstop? Now, before we continue, this is parody, commentary, and opinion. Please relax, everybody. Nobody call the Department of Hurt Feelings. They're already overloaded. So I sat down, poured myself coffee, opened this thing, and 5 pages in, I said, "Whoa, hang on. Is this a memoir or a guy trying to convince me he was always one room away from something important?" Because every chapter got me feeling like this guy knew a guy who maybe stood near another guy once. Madon. By page 20, I needed GPS. Not for directions. For the storyline. And then the stories start piling up. Big stories. Important stories. Stories so dramatic I started looking around my living room like, am I reading a biography or did Netflix accidentally mail me 3 seasons of confusion? J.J. Lambone. I bought this book expecting insight. 3 chapters later, I was staring out the window questioning every decision I made since middle school. The first signs were subtle, sudden eye-rolling, excessive wait-what reactions, a habit of looking at the ceiling as if the answers might be written there. Then came the warning I failed to respect. I started calling friends just to say, you got to hear this, even though I was not sure what this was supposed to be. By the time I reached the deluxe package, the good kind of confusion had been replaced by existential confusion. Absolutely free. The book did not feel like a finished work so much as a challenge thrown at the reader, daring them to keep going out of curiosity alone. Still, I could not stop. Every page promised clarity and delivered another detour. Every chapter raised a new question and then walked away without answering it. That is when Bambi's official rating became unavoidable. 1 star. And that star was for effort, because somebody had to staple the pages together. Bambi's book review corner exists for moments like this, when a reader finishes a book and is left sitting there with the expression of a person trying to remember their own name. This is not a recommendation. It is a public service announcement with ambition. Read responsibly.
See this thing on? Where's the recording?
BCI report was negative.
Yeah, clean living and a healthy respect for the law.
We rolling or what?
Yeah, I think we're rolling now.
We got prints. Blood samples. Smoke? I quit.
How long?
A while back. Yeah. They'll really kill you, huh?
Mid-20s, a couple stab wounds, massive bleeding, probable coronary failure.
What do you got in that stuff? You got a decaf? You gotta see this.
that means is there's a place worse than jail for you, my man.
I'll take that smoke now.